scrambling.
I hear you.
And
you know I'm going to do everything I can.
I hate to be materialistic about this.
I don't blame you a bit,
but
you should. Look, I've watched this time and time again where people have taken advantage of you guys. That's not going to happen with me. The honor that I'm getting from this, the credentials I'm getting from this, the hell with the money.
And I feel the same way. Even though this is Bill's project and he's the primary focus why this all happened, I'm honored to be here too. You know, I feel it's nice. I feel like I'm making.
See, you guys keep saying that to me, and I'm sitting here thinking, Jesus, don't you know? I didn't do anything.
Yes,
you know,
I just did my job. That's all.
This is like this would be for me like talking to someone who had been in attendance at Lincoln's assassination.
Yeah. Or it's like
he's old enough to have been there.
Or it's like meeting one of the Beatles or something.
I know that you're just a regular human being with the rest of it. But like it or not, you are part of history.
I was at the wrong place at the wrong time.
Yeah, but see, you're even better than Dealey Plaza Witness. In Dealey Plaza Witness, they didn't do anything. You actually did something. You were involved in the X-rays and the primary evidence. You saw the body. I mean, those people can actually say, "I was just there." You weren't.
I heard
there.
the comments made. Oh,
yeah.
You had to be.
That is so valuable.
If you had a tape recorder that night,
this one,
it would have burned your ears.
And that's
Tell you what,
why don't we? Why didn't we have a tape recorder that night?
Let's start it officially because we're recording right now. So 1, 2, 3.
Okay, go ahead.
When were you alerted to go on duty at the morgue?
This was between the hours of 6:30 p.m. to about 8:30 p.m. We were alerted by the officer of the day. He said that our services would be needed in the morgue to take an X-ray, portable X-ray unit, and numerous, and I do mean numerous, cassettes that somebody of great importance was being brought to Bethesda, that our services would be needed as postmortem films.
What was your interaction with the Secret Service agents there, if any? Did you, Greer and Kellerman?
Well, Siebert and O'Neill were literally up my nose.
The
I
FBI
mean,
guys, yeah.
they were attached to the hip. Every place I went, they went.
Oh boy.
You got to the point after the first set of films that I had taken and headed up towards the... See, here's the thing. The morgue that we have, the diagram here, was in the basement of the National Naval Medical Center. And the towers was up on the 4th floor where our X-ray department. So I had to get on an elevator. I came out the door here, come down the hallway, come around the corner, got on the elevator, went up to the main level. I had to go down towards the main rotunda. And this is where I ran into Jacqueline Kennedy in the entourage.
That's right, because you said you had a handful of films.
I had a handful of films, and O'Neill was right in front of me. He stopped me as he saw them coming in. And they never saw me, but I saw them. So he stopped me and says, "Stop, I don't want you to run into the newspaper." And you could see the flashes and going on when guys taking the pictures of the Kennedys. In fact, I still remember the bloody suit that she had on. She hadn't had a chance to change.
Right.
And they got onto the elevator, which was right as soon as you come in the main rotunda. There's the main room here, and it was just like a circular hallway. There were a bank of elevators that sat here on the left. There was a hallway that went down the dead center, and down on the right here, there were the executive offices, like the Commander-in-Chief and the National Naval Medical Center. And further down the hall is the emergency room. And then further down was the different offices, and then one floor down was the cafeteria.
Oh, and by the way, in that 1988 video at that, Sylvia Chase said now it's the cafeteria now, where it used to be the morgue, kind of, if you remember that, or yeah, a lot of change. In fact, I understand there's a lot of trouble with even filming in the Bethesda. They don't really even like people filming in there at all, you know, as far as
because it's a government facility.
Yeah, yeah.
And if you know anything about government facilities, you have to be checked upside down and sideways, and it's literally. Well, I'm in the process of being cleared now for a government job. And I had to make a 12-page, out of 12-page reference type application with all my relatives, where they were born, how old they were, and the whole smear. And then they go through it and they make sure that there's no, in my college years I didn't belong to the SDS, Student for Democratic Society.
Oh, yeah.
Remember that? The
Okay.
so-called letterman.
Oh, jeez.
That was the front runners to the Communist Party.
Oh my.
Absolutely.
That's the thing of McCarthy now. As soon as you said, I was thinking
McCarthyism. Oh, I never forgot that.
Oh man.
Oh, jeez.
So did we cover how you came to be at the morgue?
Yeah.
Yes. That I had taken the duty for one of my cohorts, that it was his anniversary, and he wanted to surprise his wife. And like I said, I was a 22-year-old single man. I was 4.5 hours from home. I lived in a barracks. An extra duty to me was nothing. Duty there was you come in, looked around, any necessary things that had to be taken, you took. You carried a beeper, or you let the officer of the day know where you were. If they needed you for anything, they called you. And you slept over at the barracks.
Well, this is a question I was just thinking of too, something maybe they'll cover something we were talking about before. Exactly how many skull fragments came in that night? Do you remember? There's a little bit of controversy in the exact number.
It's kind of hard to remember, but if I'm not mistaken, from the next day, there was at least 4 that I can remember right off the top of my head.
Okay.
At least 4. Because there were 4 fragments, skull fragments, and there was at least 3 small bullet fragments, 1 fragment about the size of my little baby finger, the top half of it. And this is where I had to tape them to the bone fragment.
Yeah, let's talk a little about the Ebersol bust of Kennedy. Maybe go into a little detail about that. Yeah.
I don't know who Dr. Ebersol was blowing smoke up, but he come in that one day and he said that I need you to take to do a special duty. I have skull fragments here and I have bullet fragments. I want you to tape them to the bullet fragments to the skull fragments and take x-rays on them, different densities. This is for a bust of Kennedy. I just looked at him. Again, when you're in the service, you don't question what an officer tells you to do. You do it.
But what were the thoughts in your head when this fella came to you and said, "We're making a bust of Kennedy and I want you to tape these fragments to pieces of skull"? Didn't that
Well,
strike
let
you
me
as
put
a
it this
little
way. I
thing?
can't say it on camera.
Okay.
Okay. I get you.
Volumes.
Yeah.
I want you to do me a favor.
Sure.
And I'd like you to tell me where the wound in the head was located.
Yeah.
To the best of your recollection.
The wound in the head,
Yeah.
to the best of my recollection, it was in the frontal sinus on the right-hand side, just above the orbit, right about here.
Okay, now you claim that that's the entry wound, you would
That's
think?
the entry
Okay,
wound.
now how about the exit wound? What would you
The
think?
exit wound is hard to tell because I did not visualize it because the body was constantly kept on its back. For the main reason, you did not want to move the body as much as possible because I felt every time I moved the body, I changed the contour of the head.
Okay.
So therefore, that's why I took the lateral films first. Then I took the AP film. Then I took a tangential film. A tangential film is like you're laying in an anatomical position again, with the head straight. You have your defect, well, it's over here on the right-hand side. You bring the film off to the side, and you come in at an angle, just to show the gaping hole. By the way, those are missing too.
Those are missing from the archive.
Yes, they
But
are.
I remember previously you did say that the back of the head appeared to be gone. There was no scalp there as far
Well,
as
not-
the...
Here's where a lot of researchers screw up.
Okay, we're here to correct all that.
It's not the back of the head.
Okay.
Let me get
Okay,
the
fair
lateral
enough.
film here. Where's that lateral film? Okay. Now this is just a lateral picture. Now this isn't the correct side.
Right, okay.
Here's the back of the head.
Right.
It's considered, it's called the occipital region. The defect, frontal temporal region.
Mm.
Now when you have the body laying like that, everybody points and said, that's the back of the head. And that's exactly what they were doing.
Okay.
Even the pathologist that night, that's the back of the head. No, that's not the back of the head, that's the top of the head.
Right.
Okay.
Now explain to me, there's been a lot of controversy, and this is why some researchers point to forgery, that the back of his head was blown out. If the back of his head was blown out, why can he rest his head on that piece?
Because the back of the head wasn't blown out. This was still intact. It may not have been perfectly intact. There was fractures in there, of course, with all the destruction. But this is the only region. If the back of the head was gone, there would be nothing here to hold the head up.
But there was a
This would have been all inside.
But there was a large defect back.
There was a defect from here to here only. This was all
That was
ripped, torn. It's just somebody, an Indian come in and scalped them,
Oh boy.
All right.
literally.
Okay, but it still jives with the notion that you saw the frontal entry wound, and you still think that was an exit of some sort, even though if it wasn't technically back here, it still made sense with.
Remember the trajectory, 40 to 45 degrees.
Okay. Okay.
You're going in like this.
Okay. Okay.
Are you blowing out the back of the head?
No, not at that angle. Okay.
Frontal temporal region. That's what's being destroyed.
Okay.
That would
I showed you on the AP X-ray.
That explains
All
a lot.
the fractures are emanating from the front, going towards the back. This is what I brought out in my book. I answered many of those questions. There was at least a dozen, if not more, questions that I answered in the book, stating what actually is true and what actually is false. There's something else I'm going to bring out that it's going to come out later on. Little tidbit.
Okay.
I had a special marker that I had that night that I placed in all the films. It wasn't visualized on any of the films that you had. It was visualized on the films that were in the archives. It showed positioning, depth, and also showed what side.
Wow.
And you're going to bring this out later.
I'll bring this out later in the next book.
Okay.
All right.
Which,
Fair enough.
which like I reiterated again, I'll make sure that you'll be the first one to know.
I appreciate
That's
that.
fair. Yeah.
Now, when you saw the body, were there any chest marks, puncture wounds?
There was a bruising on the thoracic, pleural thoracic area. Now when I'm talking about a bruising, it is slight discoloration. Now at that time I did not notice any particular openings. All I saw was, yes I did, I'll take that back. When we lifted him up to take the skull films, that's when a fragment fell out of the back of the body.
Let's get a picture of that. I believe we have one somewhere.
It should be right here.
And there's also been a great deal of controversy about the back wound, and I'd like to clear that up.
Yeah,
Oh,
here
here
it
we go.
is. Here it is.
Right here.
All right. They're saying
Let's make
this
sure
was
the camera gets it.
They were saying this is a back wound and
Right.
this is a wound.
Right.
That was a wound. This was not a wound.
Okay.
What was that?
Piece of blood.
Piece of blood. One thing I've always wondered about, maybe you can help me clear it up a little bit. The ruler that this person, I don't know who these hands belong to in this film.
We're assuming it's Humes and Boswell. But
Right.
That's
Well,
a speculation.
but
yeah.
there's so much controversy about it's been forged, and to me that ruler doesn't mark anything. It's just kind of on his back.
Now I'm surmising this. Now you tell me if it seems far-fetched. If I can find the
There's
one
also a
film.
roller there too.
I'm looking for one particular film here.
There too.
Here it is. What's that?
The throat wound.
Where's it located? Look at the...
Well,
Okay, just look for a second. Don't try to think anything into it. Here's the neck.
right.
Here's the scapulas. The scapulas run here and here. Don't look at the ruler per se. What if I were to take the ruler and go like this? And remember, an angling up. Would that almost line up with that?
It would appear to, if that's what we're looking at. If it's angled up, it
See what I'm
would,
Something
saying?
I've never thought of
Yes.
before. Yeah.
yes.
This comes from experience.
Yeah, you would know, not us.
I'm not saying this is an exit wound. I'm not saying it's an entrance wound. I'm just, from what I see here and what I see here, kind of clicks.
Well, there's got to be a reason for it.
Right. You got to remember, right down through here is the toughest part of the spine, which is your thoracic spine. So that'll stop a fragmented bullet. Specifically if it's from a distance.
Now, while we're on photos again, I've always wondered, there have been people that have said this is an entrance wound, this little fleck here. Did you see anything like this?
And there again, you gotta remember, when I was there, the body was never turned like this.
Okay.
The body was always on its back. Basically, this is what I couldn't understand. Whenever you go in and take films, specifically on a forensic case, you do not move the body. You move it as little as possible because you can always destroy evidence. You change positions of bone, you change positions of neck, you change everything.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I can see that.
Doing this, they felt, well, we can play now. And truthfully, that's what they're doing.
Basically just lifting him up and not really doing anything specific, just
Right.
getting pictures of it.
Right. And
But the bottom line is you do not believe that's an entrance
No.
wound or anything down there? Okay.
No.
How about up here? Do you see this here? The House Select Committee claimed that that was an entrance wound there.
No,
Okay.
I don't believe so.
And,
Okay.
and I can't remember who did the drawings. When the House Select Committee used drawings, or maybe it was
Ida
Ida
Docs, yeah.
This went from being a possible speck of blood to having a bullet entrance wound in the head.
Here it is again. Experts surmising. They're not thinking of the simplest thing. They weren't there. They didn't see. You realize how filthy, excuse me, I shouldn't say it that way because the man was the President of the United States, but the condition of the body, it was a mess. There was brain fragments, clots everywhere. You touched them, I mean, you were totally bloody. And to say, well, this is a bullet fragment, or this is a skull fragment, or this is this, you can't say that. You'd have to go in and clean that area out. Have you ever watched an autopsy? Literally.
Myself, no.
A lot of times when they think that there's a hole there, they'll go in and they'll remove that whole area and clean it up.
Okay.
And then there's no supposition at all. It's right there. This is what the government banked on.
And we're talking about the back of the head.
Right.
Yeah, as far as this.
They're
this
banking
part
on
right
the
here.
experts looking at it and saying, well, that looks like a bullet hole. That can't be a fragment. That can't be this. Why can't it?
How about the notion that was brought out about 10 years ago, and it's still popular today, that that's some sort of mat insertion, because you can see how this is wet and a different texture than down here. Do you put any stock in that, or?
Well, there again, I had nothing to do with the films.
Oh, sure.
And I
You just
can't-
offer an opinion, big
All I can say, I see what you're saying. It looks like this was all brushed in.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, could be. No, maybe. I don't know.
I see. Fair
Well,
enough.
there's a lot of people, because of this picture, that say they're holding up a flap of skin here.
Yeah, with the hand right here.
Yeah.
Now, in your opinion, based on what you saw,
Yes,
is
definitely.
that possible?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
So
well,
you're
that's
saying
fine.
that is possible?
That is possible. You know who would be perfect for this? If you could talk him into it. This is Floyd Reeves.
I'm in the process of contacting Mr. Reeve.
If you can talk him into this, you know, some of his rolls of film disappeared.
Did he tell you which ones?
He didn't mention it
But some of his roles have disappeared.
because there was many times when he'd finish a roll of film, the FBI guy would come out and take it after he rolled it up.
Wow.
There was a lot of that. In fact, the first time I went up to develop my x-rays, I'm not sure if it was Siebert or Neil, it was one of the two of them, wanted to walk into the dark room with me, and I just went, no, there's where you stop. Well, I have to see what you're doing. I said, no, you don't. You stay out there. And I closed the door on it. That's when I took the other set of films out and put them in the box.
Let's talk about
Wow.
the films for a minute. When you were going with an armload of films, there's been speculation, or I've read somewhere that you took extra sets of x-rays. You wanna
Well,
tell me
not
about that?
extra sets. I double loaded,
And what does double loaded mean? I'm not
put two films in.
Okay.
You gotta remember now, an x-ray cassette has two screens, and they're activated screens. When the x-ray goes through them, they lighten up, they're fluorescent, just like your watch. And you get an image on there, and that image is placed on the film. So if your film is a little bit too dark, the one film is dark, the one film is just right.
Okay, I understand that. So what did you do with these?
I ran one film and put the other film in the light box. There was a process that we had, it was called an old Payco unit, where it was like a table where you ran your film in, and underneath there was a light-proof box. You'd take one, put it in, put one in the box. Fill that one up, put it over there, same thing. And I went through each film that I took. And after everything was over and done that evening, I come back and ran the film. Those were all good too. I put them in one of the mailing folders, tied them up, and hid them on the USN insignia in the department. And kept them there for the longest time.
How long do you think they were there, undiscovered?
A couple months.
And what happened to these films?
I destroyed them.
Why'd you do that?
Because of the gag order that I had signed. I didn't destroy them right away. After I thought on it and pondered on it a little bit and thought, well, if these films would happen to surface along the line here somewhere, they're going to trace them back to me, and guess whose body's going to wind up in jail? So eventually I destroyed them. I thought it wasn't worth it. Never thought that later on down the road that they could have been worth millions. Or they could have solved the whole problem.
Yeah, because of the missing x-rays, missing materials, and things they could resolve, man.
But I also could be dead.
Yeah, that's true too.
Given what you know, given the fact that we all know that there's been several deaths over the years, some unexplainable things have happened to a lot of people that had a lot to do with this case. Even today, 34 years later, going on 35, do you have any fear?
If I were to say no, I'd be lying. I still have a little bit. There's still people around that don't want to be implicated. Who come up with the one bullet theory?
Mm-hmm.
Need I say more?
That's it.
No,
Who come up with one bullet theory?
Yeah, presidential
Come on.
candidate now.
You have to be somebody to stand there and blow smoke up your nose. One bullet? Come on. That bullet had to do a fantastic dance.
Yes. Was there a George Bateman present? Do you remember that name? His name's been tossed around.
No. You know what I think it was? Truthfully, there was so much mass confusion going on. The two FBI agents were going around asking different names. These guys were twisted one way and twisted another. And I think it was just a mistake on their part.
One of the witnesses that I talked to, one of your colleagues, has told me that he felt during the autopsy that the body had been gotten to before it ever came into the morgue. What's your opinion on that?
Well, there again, all I can do is I can surmise to the fact that that's a good possibility, because when I was notified that the body was coming in, I was told that the body was coming from Walter Reed. All right?
You were told by
The officer of the day.
who was,
I can't remember his name right off the top of my head.
was it Smokey Stover?
What was his name?
Smokey Stover?
No. This was just a, either a JG or an ensign. Lowly little.
And this person told you personally that
Right.
the body was coming from Walter Reed.
And I feel that he told me something he shouldn't have, because he was later reprimanded for it. Now, stop and think. Where's Walter Reed? Hospital. Alexandria, right?
Mm-hmm.
What else is in Alexandria? 3 initials. Need I say more?
That's okay. That's great. I think that speaks volumes in itself.
Yes.
So let's go back to the morgue for a second. I want a little more of the atmosphere of the morgue. I've been told by other people that were there, again your colleagues, that I've had people say it was absolute pandemonium. Would you say that's true? Would you say?
Oh, absolutely. There was hollering and screaming and orders being given and different people saying this and different people saying that.
Was there anybody in charge that you know of? Did anybody assume charge?
Absolutely. There was quite evidence throughout the evening.
And who was that?
JFK's personal physician.
So you're saying Dr. Berkeley
Dr. George Berkeley,
Sure.
yeah.
was basically...
Because he was also an admiral, too.
Full admiral.
Yeah.
He came right out and absolutely, positively said, the Kennedy family wouldn't want that done, and I don't think you should follow that line. Baloney. It's a forensic pathology autopsy. You're looking for evidence. If you have to do that to the body, you have to do it to find out what happened. And I'll bring this up as a little anecdote. Many times when we were taking the different x-rays, I brought certain things to Dr. Ebersol's attention. And I was told to shut up, do my own job, mind my own business. That's his job. Let me do my job, you do your job. I said, fine. And I walked away.
Is there anybody that you can recall specifically being in the morgue that night?
The only one I really, it has to be Kennedy's physician. That's the only one, because he stuck on. I mean, he wasn't quiet at all. He made comments about everything.
He didn't seem to be in any kind of shock or loss or mourning or...
No, he seemed like he was controlling everything.
Every little step along
Every step along the way. And this is one thing that I couldn't get over how Ebersol brought it out in his deposition, that when he was asked by the medical committee, was there anybody in control that night dictating to you what you couldn't do and what you couldn't do? Oh, absolutely not. There was nobody in control. That was baloney. It was so evident. Everybody knew who was in control.
Boswell and Humes, what was their demeanor while this was going on?
They did what they were told to do.
And that was it. Do you feel that there was any kind of little scenario going on and that they were going too far, or they were just following along, trying not to make waves for Berkeley?
Absolutely. And when they stepped over the line, they were smacked.
So you don't feel that they hid anything. They just followed along and did what they were told to do.
They did what they told to do. But it's kind of funny, though, later on, Hume's destroying his notes.
Yes.
Why did he keep such detailed notes? He did it for a reason. Humes was a politician. Humes knew how to manipulate things. Humes was a career person. He knew how to protect Humes's back. But evidently somebody got to him higher and more powerful than he thought, and he destroyed his notes. So he had to be hiding something. Common sense will tell you that.
Yeah.
I think that's a good place to stop.
Well, just one more thing. I just think one more thing would be really good now. But yeah, just take a couple minutes.
Go ahead, we got 15 more.
Yeah, and then that'll be good. I just thought of a couple more things.
Sure.
Go ahead, bring them up.
About what's your take on the notion about a 1,500 gram brain? You know, the weight of the brain being like basically above average. What's your take on that?
Well, see, you're delving into something that's not my expertise. I really can't go in and say, oh yeah, you're right there, or no, you're wrong there. I want this to be the utmost truth, because what I know from experience and from the knowledge that I've picked up, and I really don't know anything about that. You know, I never saw the brain. I didn't know any weight, shape, or form. I knew they were weighing particular different organs and stuff, but that's the limit that it goes.
Yeah.
When going back to when they first brought the coffin in, and they took the lid off of the coffin, and again we're talking about not an ornate coffin, but a cheaply made coffin. When they took the lid off, what do you recall that the body was wrapped in? Was the body in anything? I'm asking this because there's been controversy about whether the body was in a body bag or not. Do you remember the body being in a body bag?
Truthfully, what struck me funny is the body was totally naked.
Totally.
Totally. There was no clothes on it at all. The only thing that I can possibly remember and honestly say that really stuck out was the head was completely covered down to the neck, and there was a sheet wrapped around it, and I could see the sheet through the clear, whatever it was. I won't say it was plastic because I don't really remember, honestly. And I thought, well, my God, the head must be really in a disarray if they have something like that on it.
Do you remember if it was a zippable cover? Did it zip or unzip, or you don't remember?
Can't remember that.
Did you recognize President Kennedy right away? Was there like no question about it?
Well, as soon as they took the cover off, I recognized him right away.
Yeah. What? Just from a human interest standpoint, what did that feel like? Just knowing that this was the man you saw.
See, the bad part about it is that I had met the man prior.
Oh.
Well, you know, he had a bad back,
Yes.
and I had taken some X-rays on his back, and I had talked to him.
You had.
Yeah.
I never knew.
You met him while he was alive.
Live, right. And it was just an average Joe.
How did he strike you?
Just like I said, an average person. It wasn't, I'm the President of the United States. Johnson, typical politician, get away from me, son. Kennedy wasn't that way. He walked up, shook my hand, and what's your name? And I told him, I said, where are you from? And I told him. He said, how long you been here? And I told him, and he says, you have any girlfriends? And I told him, and we had a heck of a conversation. But he did have an extremely bad back.
He did?
Yes. And that was a war injury.
You took the x-rays of his back?
Right.
So that must have been extra, like, more poignant to see.
Well, it kind of shocked me. I had to look at him twice because there was a deformity. He didn't actually look the way he normally looked. And you have to remember it's due to post-mortem, rigor mortis, bloating, blood, bloating. Well, you're going to look at his neck and see how bloated the neck is due to all that trauma. You can see this right here.
Yeah.
There is a picture, again, the stare death photo, where there's been some speculation that, is this pretty much what he looked like? Would you say that that is Kennedy? There's been speculation throughout the community of researchers.
Let me say something. If you look at it, look at his forehead here. Look at how this all seems to indent.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Here again, you got to remember now, the mortician was there. He had putty and wax. You can't see the holes here. Look how thick that looks.
And you think that's because the mortician at this point, when this picture was
Started his job.
started his job?
Right.
Well, that clears up a lot, because I've never heard of that before. I didn't know that the mortician had already been there and started his
Oh, yeah. As soon as I walked away from the body.
To the Gallers funeral people, yeah.
Yeah, he was right there. In fact, like I had stated, there were two coffins there. One that they brought him in on, one they put him in and transported him to the funeral home.
So
it wasn't the same coffin.
So basically in the morgue that night, you did see two coffins.
Right.
There was the ornate coffin.
Right.
And there was the so-called cheap shipping casket.
Right.
And you saw both of those.
Right. Here's one thing that a lot of the researchers keep bringing up. Well, was there another body in there that was supposed to be autopsy? Baloney. No. Why would they put another body in there? This is the President of the United States. Security was so tight. In fact, every time we came up through I'm not sure where it's at, but there's a picture of me coming up the hall that was taken through a keyhole.
I say you and Ed Reed.
Right,
yeah.
Right.
It was taken
Some
through a
Life
keyhole.
magazine.
It was a special adapt that was placed on a camera and taken through a keyhole. Well, you saw the guards all over the place. Nobody was allowed in. And literally every time I left the morgue, I had either Siebert or O'Neill with me.
So they stayed pretty much close to you.
Like one was here and one was there.
Wow. And they didn't leave you. They followed you.
Followed me. I think if I went to the John, they would have followed me too.
I'm going to ask this simply so we can clear it up for a lot of people. I know I keep harping on this. But this is basically how Kennedy looked.
Right.
This is not, a lot has been made because you can't see pores in his skin in this photograph.
Right.
And that they say that there have been writers that have written that this is a composite.
You know why that you can't see pores?
Why?
I can tell you right now. Just look at it. Look at all this. They use heavy flashes on it. And they burnt the pores out. There's no detail.
And that's basically because of flash.
Right.
That's basically because of flash.
Let me show you something else. What do you think that is?
I don't know.
What is that? Yeah.
I've heard from Paul O'Connor that that's a wooden structure that was not in the morgue that night. He said that that would have been outside the front door.
That is like a lock. There is a screw there, there's a wheel there, and there's a wheel over here. It's an X-ray machine.
Oh my
Let's
gosh.
point it toward the camera real well so that we can, because I never,
There.
It's an X-ray machine. There's a box to hold the films. You know why I know it's an X-ray machine? Because I put it there.
you're the one that put it there.
Right.
Wow.
My God, that's amazing.
But this whole washout, and you ask any photographer, if you get too close with too strong of a flash, you get no skin detail at all. None.
All right. Well, there's.
Do you want skin detail when you see wax up here?
No.
Think in a three-dimensional plane.
Wow. Yeah.
It's something I would never have thought about.
Someone ever was, yeah.
But I thought about it. See what I'm saying?
Yeah. We do see what you're saying.
Think, look here. See the discoloration?
Well, now that you mention it, yes. I've looked at this photograph hundreds of times, if not thousands. I've
Oh
never-
yeah.
Why do you think you have that discoloration there?
I don't know. Tell me.
Remember I showed you? The wound? Your one little picture that you had?
Right.
Is it?
That's
Just-
blood in the tissue.
All right.
Here. Turn your film exactly like that. See it?
Here we go.
Yes.
There is there.
Well. All right.
Oh.
Now I understand.
And you're saying, by the way, you're saying this is missing, this X-ray.
It's not in the archives, I can tell you that right now.
And basically for the audience, what is this picture?
This is an area that I took of that particular hole just to prove that it was where the bullet had went through. And I proved it. And this is what I showed to Eversole, and this is where he told me, do your job. That's my job to interpret.
All right.
I can see that, yeah. Sounds good
Makes
to
a
me.
lot of sense.
Yeah, yeah.
Makes a lot
I
of
told you I'd blow your socks off tonight,
I'm
didn't I?
telling you, something else. This is detail that no
This
one's
is-
ever gone into before.
No, this is wonderful.
I just got one last
And
question.
to think how close somebody come to blowing the whole thing.
Oh yeah, oh yeah. Well, how about this picture right here? What's this for? This right here.
You want blood on you?
Is that basically what that's for? Okay, okay, okay.
Who's
Sure.
Oh wait, no, I take that back. I take that back. Look at the arms. There's an arm here,
Okay.
there's a shirt sleeve here. There's an arm here.
Okay.
That's his greens.
Right, because they had him on his back and
Okay.
they turned him up.
So that is the proper orientation for this photo, not like this.
No, not at
like
all.
This.
They as I understand it, they took him and raised him up off the table,
Right.
turning them toward them, and that's why it's so
And
hard.
that's part of his arm right there. That's
Right.
part of his arm there.
That's why
Okay.
it's so hard to distinguish in these
Right.
pictures, because they didn't go point by point. They
Right.
did things that you would normally not do. to the
I mean,
best of
this
my
one is
understanding.
obvious, but
Plain.
the other one.
Playing with it.
Literally. They were told what they couldn't do, so they got to the point, like anybody. You get disgusted. And then you just put your time and play.
Yeah.
So you
That's,
don't.
that's
you-
what they're doing.
You don't think this was any attempt at all to fabricate or alter or make it so that people couldn't understand it? They just got tired of what was going on, being told what to do, not allowed to do their jobs, and so that's why these autopsy photographs come out the way they have.
Right. That's my opinion.
This one looks a
This
little
one,
different.
this one is very important
Tell us why.
because it's missing.
And again, what does it show?
It It shows bullet hole where a bullet hole shouldn't be. And they kept saying, oh no, that's not a bullet hole. And you can see the fragmentation of the bone here. If this was better quality, you would also see bullet fragments throughout it. This is all kind of blurred. There's no detail whatsoever.
But what part of the, for the audience again, what part of the body are we looking at here?
Cervical spine.
Cervical spine.
Lower cervical spine. This is where it would be C7, C6, C7. That's just
From the neck down, at what point are we looking at?
the lower.
The lower back.
There are 7 cervical vertebrae. There are 12 thoracic vertebrae. So this 2 vertebrae here are 6 and 7. They're 2 above T1.
Okay, okay.
All right.
Right here alone would have paralyzed him.
Okay.
That was never brought up.
Okay, okay. So you're saying in one respect he would have survived the throat wound, but as far as that goes, he probably would have been
Paralyzed.
He would have been like FDR, so to speak,
Sure.
as far as the
He'd have been in a chair.
Wow.
Now we've seen how he's when he comes out from the roadside,
Like
he's
this.
already like this.
Yeah, like that.
Now that's called the
It's been the allegation is
The
from Latimer
allegation
and
is-
Posner that that's the Thorburn position.
Thorburn position,
Yeah.
and his arms went up like this. Do you feel that there's any possibility of that because of that wound that the nerves went like this, and that's why you don't see him grabbing his throat? A lot of people say that he grabbed his
Yeah.
throat. He didn't grab his throat. His fists come up,
Yeah, he goes like this.
and his arms are up like this in a protective, almost football stance, like
All
this.
right, here, let me show you something. I don't want to mark on that. Now you have your cervical spine. This is very, you have your fossa here, fossa here. You have spinal cord coming through here. Plus you have nerves that come out here, just like tree trunks. When you hit the spinal cord, you short circuit everything. And that brings everything up.
Let's show that to the camera.
Okay.
This is the drawing.
Right.
And so
Your tendency to bring up.
So basically the shock from the bullet made it
Right.
go like this,
Right.
but not necessarily in the Thorburn position where it would.
Well, I can't attest to that.
Well, I know this is opinion.
Right,
I know this is opinion, but you do know you are in the medical field.
right. And the nerves will make you do that, definitely.
Okay. Good enough.
Okay. Jesus.
I think we covered quite a bit tonight.
Yeah.
All right.
All right. Very good.
Okay, let's wrap the camera up,
Sounds good.
and we'll.
Oh, is this going to be long?
So what?
We
The
can-
more longer it is, very good.
We can make it double tape.
I figure it's at least 3 hours long now.
That's all right.
Good.
Well, we took little
Love
breaks,
it.
but this has been good.
But
Yeah.
still.
Your wife
Okay.
will be very happy about this.
Okay, very good. I got this in the shot. Okay, I tell you what. 1, 2, 3, go. Tell you what, Jerry. Tell us a little bit about this picture.
All right, this is a picture of myself and William Reed, who was a student that night in November of '63. This was taken during the first trip back to the X-ray department by a reporter that had a special lens attachment that shot through a keyhole. You can see myself and Reed coming down the hall, and you'll see the heads of a few of the guards. There was a Marine Guard, there was a Navy Guard, and an Army Guard that was there also. Security was pretty tight that evening, so no reporters were actually allowed in and around the morgue area. Is there anything else you need to know?
No, that's about it. I guess we can start whenever you're ready.
You want the next picture?
Yeah, maybe that would be good. This is the second photo from life.
Tell us a little bit about this picture.
All right, this is the same, the same people in the picture. In fact, if you'll notice, that was the officer of the day that informed me that JFK was coming in from Walter Reed. I do not know, still remember what the man's name was, but I'm sure that that can be found out quite easily.
And what night were these taken on?
The night of the morgue, the night of the autopsy.
So this was taken on November 22nd, 1963.
November 22nd, 1963.
Okay, very good.
We got it?
Yes.
Have we stopped the camera now?
Doesn't matter. This could be edited, so we can just start, questions and stuff.
Well, now let's get it off the picture now, and so that we can all get in the framing of it.
Yeah, I did. I got it ready.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. When I'm sitting down, I'll be ready.
You can get in there?
Oh yeah. Here we go. Okay.
Oh, went to my home.
We need to make sure I'm not blocking. He is the main subject here.
No, he is. He's main in there. Yeah. That's good. Okay.
She's gonna be loving that.
Now let's start for the timing sequence of when, just to clarify a little bit about the point where you had X-rays in your arms and you were going down the hallway and you saw Jacqueline Kennedy. I'll let you tell it in your own words. I'd like to have more on that.
All right, we had, I'm not sure if it was Siebert or O'Neill, but one of the two of the FBI agents who were with us at the time, they happened to stop us just before we came into the rotunda. And we saw the entourage of Jacqueline Kennedy, Bobby Kennedy was there. And we're encircled with newspapermen, and they were taking pictures. In fact, a little tidbit for yourself is that during that time also, Dennis David was up on the second floor looking out the window and witnessed the entourage pulling in. And he also knew at the same time that the body was in the morgue. So he realized there were two coffins.
He's told me that, yes. He's personally told me that. What were your feelings when you came out of there with an armload of X-rays and you see Jacqueline Kennedy coming in the front door?
It sort of surprised me in effect, and I knew, in fact, if you were to see my appearance at that time, my white smock that I had on that was in the pictures was bloody. And I had to literally destroy it. So I was covered with blood, and I had to clean the X-rays off when I got back up to the department. So she would have known, had to have known or surmised that I was doing something. Oh, truthfully, I don't think she knew that the body was there.
You don't?
No, I think she thought the body was with her at that time. So the body had to be separated from her at one time or another, beyond her knowing what was going on.
Tell you what, I want to ask you, do you think the body was tampered with in any fashion?
I know this is opinion, but you are a medical person. Let's speculate.
Okay, let's put it this way. Let's put it this way. With as much stuff, as much cover-up, as much influence, there was pressure that was on that night, I wouldn't put it past them. I had an inexperienced radiologist. They told him to look for bullets that went in and didn't come out. And a forensic pathologist would look at that person and say, well, you're crazy. We're looking for tracking, entrance, exits, degree of inclination. They had two administrative pathologists that hadn't done autopsies in umpteen years. All they did was process the paperwork. And they've never done a forensic autopsy. they had an influencing force in the gallery that literally guided the autopsy throughout the evening. They had two FBI agents that created their own little pandemonium by questioning people that night.
Well, now let's back up a little. When you say that there was an influence in the gallery, are you talking about Berkeley? Or are you talking about someone else? Let's clarify that a little bit.
Well, let's just put it this way. I'm talking about JFK's personal physician. Okay. And he let it be known that night. I am JFK's personal physician. You will listen to what I say. You will do what I say.
Okay. And on the next point, continue with what you were going to say about the Secret Service agents. Did you say FBI or Secret?
No, there were Secret Service there also.
Kellerman and Greer, were you familiar with them? Did they really?
No, they didn't quite get involved with us. They stayed pretty much with the Joint Chiefs. And,
but were they there in the gallery?
I seem to remember seeing the other two gentlemen there also. But I know for a fact that Siebert and O'Neill were there because they were attached to my hip.
Okay.
They were literally, how can I say, delegated to stay with me.
What was their demeanor? They filed a report where they wrote surgery of the head area.
That's exactly what I was thinking.
And there's been speculation that they wrote that because they heard it from a doctor that was there at the autopsy.
All right, now here's the thing you have to remember. These two gentlemen are laymen. When an autopsy is performed, surgery of the wounds are performed. So there's a possibility they could have heard it from Boswell or Humes or Fink at that time, because he arrived later on and he was more aggressive.
We're talking about Fink now.
Right. He was more aggressive in his mannerisms and procedure than Boswell and Humes. Boswell and Humes were like puppets.
Did he seem to be frustrated by being told, no, you can't do this, or you shouldn't do that, or only take this so far?
That's kind of difficult to remember because he did what he was told. And if he was frustrated, he kind of hit it.
So he just basically went along like Humes. He didn't put up a fuss. I want to get to how they must have been, all of you must have been under extreme pressure.
Oh, we were being watched constantly. Everybody watched us. There was different times when I literally had to scream at people to move. In that close area, you're taking X-rays, which are, you have a machine producing ionizing radiation, and you have to be within a distance of 6 feet to be within a safe area. Just to give you a for instance, if you were to go today, have a barium enema, you would actually be sterile for 6 months. A lot of people don't know that.
Really?
Sterility for 6 months. Now this is with, I can get a little technical here, but this is with an 18-inch focal film distance on the tube itself, or target film distance, let's put it that way, where you have the anode, which is like a little wire, and then you have a tungsten target, and this fires electrons across, and this is what produces the radiation.
Okay, I understand.
And this is the older fluorotubes. So this would coincide with that time in '63.
Right. Now, you were there. You know about the events of that night. Vince, turn the camera off for a minute, because Just let it run. I forgot the question I was going to ask.
I have something just in case.
Go ahead, fill it in.
Okay. Are you aware of the allegations of, I don't know if it was an Admiral or Captain David Osborne about the bullet falling out of the body during the autopsy, I guess when they lifted him up? Did you see a whole bullet or a fragment ever fall out of President
Well,
Kennedy?
I wouldn't call it a fragment. I'd say it was a pretty sized
Oh, really?
bullet. Right?
Ah.
Because it created such a fuss, they ran over with a set of forceps. Forceps are like a pair of scissors, but they're flattened on the end so they could grab. And they grabbed it, picked it up, and put it in a little basin of water.
Now is this the bullet? Now when you were doing the X-rays, and you had him on the table and moving him around, didn't you tell me at some point in some of our earlier conversations that a bullet fragment fell out of the president?
This was the time that they found that.
Okay, and what happened? What was their demeanor? What happened when that bullet fragment fell out?
I called one of the surgeons, or one of the pathologists over and said, "Hey, we have a bullet here." As soon as they heard that, they come down off of the raised platform and ran over, and then they picked it up. Then Siebert and O'Neill also come over and said, "Well, we want that." That's
Because they have a receipt for a missile, but a lot of times people think it's semantics. Was it a fragment? So you're saying it wasn't a whole bullet, it was a sizable fragment of a
it
bullet?
was. Well, let's see. You're getting in semantics here about the sizable. It was distinguishable enough to know it was a bullet.
Okay.
But it wasn't complete because there was some fragmentation, some area of destruction on the bullet.
Just for clarification, what area of the body did it fall out of?
That was the upper thoracic, the upper back.
Okay, so it fell out. It literally fell out of the back wound.
Right.
All right. Well, now the single bullet theory would have us believe that the bullet went in, came out his throat, hit Conley in the right armpit, came out, broke his left wrist, and they cut the radial nerve, and went into his leg. So if you're telling us that the bullet fragment fell out of the back, that blows the single bullet theory to hell right there.
Right.
And also the fact it was too low on the back to exit the neck, as far as the right to left trajectory, vertical on horizontal too.
And you're absolutely certain that
Right.
this bullet fragment fell out of the back.
Absolutely.
The back wound itself. It
Right.
fell out of the back
We
wound.
lifted him up, man. Boom. And that's where it come on.
Well, that's corroboration for David Osborne too. Yeah.
That would explain missile received from Siebert and O'Neill.
Right.
Right.
That's something that I've wanted to clear
They
up.
documented everything that happened that evening.
Okay. This is a break.
Hello.
You break, we'll pick it up with James. Okay?
Okay, just let me get back in position. We're ready to get.
Now, am I all right here, Vince?
Yes,
I'm
you're
not
fine.
blocking.
You're fine.
He's the vocal point here. not me.
Right. Okay. 1, 2, go.
You want me to bring in about Mr. Jenkins?
Are you finished with talking about?
Yes.
Siebert
Just in fact that everything that occurred that night, Siebert and O'Neill documented everything. Somebody got up and left, they documented it.
So they were there documenting everything.
Everything.
Now, to my understanding, the logbook, there was a logbook that is normally kept of people that go in and out of the area. Is
Right.
this correct?
Right.
Now, as I understand it, that's missing
It's gone.
and has been missing since that night.
Correct.
Yeah, Paul O'Connor memorized the number. Remember that?
That's correct, and he could do it from memory.
Right.
Yeah, it was gone. It's totally disappeared.
What do you feel about that?
It's part of the cover-up. They don't want people to know. This is why the chief was taken care of, literally. He actually had photographic evidence that they didn't want out.
And by the chief, who are you talking about?
Chief Pitzer.
Now, I know we went into to Chief Pitzer a little bit last night, and maybe we've covered him enough. But Dennis David, who was Pitzer, Pitzer was a mentor to Dennis David, and they were basically best friends.
Right.
I've been told by him that he helped edit film.
Correct.
That night.
Correct.
And there's been no corroboration from that, except that you said that you saw him. You do remember him.
Absolutely.
Filming.
Right.
And Dennis David also told me that he saw pictures of a wound in the side of the president's head, a small bullet wound in the right temple.
You gotta remember something. Dennis David is a layman. His anatomy sometimes can leave a lot to be desired. What he considered the side of the head could be here.
Okay.
Or here.
All right.
But I would say the side of the head would be the temporal region. There was no bullet wounds here.
Really? Okay.
He did mention on a certain TV documentary, he did point to here as far as what he said was the entrance wound, and it appeared that President Kennedy was shot from the front viewing this film.
Right.
Yeah.
So would you say that's correct?
I would say that's pretty close to where it was.
Mm. Yeah.
Right.
When you're discussing something with somebody, you don't actually hit it right on. You could come off to the side a little bit and see where I'm at.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, it was right in here. You could see where the fragment is, where it went in, the destruction. You had the picture. Watch where the lines emanate from. There's a focal point. That's the shell entrance. Back to the same simple theory. Look at what you have. It's as plain as the nose on your face. Don't surmise, well, the bullet looked like it's the back of the head there. No. Look at your fraction. Where do they come from? Where do they start at? Where's all the damage at? You see damage on the frontal sinuses. You see damage on the orbit, the floor of the orbit, the orbital ridge. If a bullet goes in the front, you'd have fracturing in that area. The bullet would come out that front, go in at the back and come out that front. You wouldn't have no orbital area or the frontal sinuses. If you've ever seen anybody that has been shot in the back of the head and the bullet exited from the face, there's not much of the face left.
And you've seen such things?
I've seen such things.
So you would know basically what a bullet would do if it hit you in the back of the head.
Correct.
So you would know what to look for, and you could tell this man was hit in the back of the head. There wouldn't be any question in your mind.
Right. You'd see all the facial damage. When a bullet goes in, it expands, destroys tissue. You have fragments, bullets, tissue, bone coming forward. All that is one big mass, and it just brings everything
And
up.
this is not indicative of someone who was shot.
No,
behind.
this would all be gone.
All right, what would you say what you're going to get is people that are going to say, what? It was a steel-jacketed bullet. It was made to stay in place. We're talking about the Carcano now.
Okay, that's fine. Let them say that. Explain away all the fragments.
Yeah, there's dust-like fragments
All
up
over.
here.
All over the
They're not
place.
even in the
And
range.
if you had a steel-jacketed bullet that remained intact or partially intact,
It
you
would
not have-
remain 99% intact. A steel-jacketed bullet is meant to go in, kill, and come back out.
So you're not going to see fragments. You're not going
Right.
to see dust particles. You may
You'll
see a
see
little,
it,
but
right, but not
much.
that much. And you wouldn't see that sizable fragments in there like that. That bullet went in and exploded. That's what it's used for.
And what about the notion, I know you said something yesterday briefly, about his eye was, what, hanging out?
Right.
Right.
And that's
yeah.
basically from the destruction of all the tendons and ligaments within the eye and the muscles that were destroyed from being severed when the bullet went in.
That's what Sam Kinney said, the driver of the fall car, when he first saw him in Parkland, he said that his right eye was on his chin.
Right. Literally. It
Wow.
comes straight out.
Wow.
And there was nothing to hold it. The only thing that held it is maybe a few small muscles that weren't torn in the skin itself. Here you can see the eye was placed back. Like I had said last night, the mortician was already here. He had started his work after I had completed mine.
All right.
Okay.
That's why I can't say, I really truthfully had nothing to do with these photos, and I can't authenticate them one way or another. I can't say when they were taken one way or another. This could have been taken afterwards.
Right.
This could have been taken afterwards to help the mortician to make sure that he was doing what he wanted to do.
Okay, that would explain stuff. Did you have anybody assisting you that night?
Did I have one?
Did you have any assistants that night?
Yes, I did. I had a student, Mr. Jenkins.
Mr. Jenkins, that would be James Curtis Jenkins.
Right.
And what did he do for you, basically?
He assisted me in moving the body, handed me cassettes, helped me lift the body and place the cassettes underneath the body.
How about Ed Reed? Was he a help at all?
Ed also assisted me the same way. Oh, let me go back now. Let me correct that. I was wrong. Jenkins didn't assist me. It was Ed Reed that assisted me. Jenkins had his own job to do that night. I'm not quite sure what that was. Right now, after 30-some years, it's kind of hard to remember what he did.
Yeah. Right.
But Ed Reed assisted me. He was my student. He was on call that evening, and with me. And he assisted me to lift, place films, clean the cassettes, cover them, simple stuff.
So James Curtis Jenkins was another technician who was definitely there helping out.
Right.
Ed Reed was actually your actual assistant in that.
But he did help you out in some respects in moving the body and
Right.
to get different
Yes.
shots and things
Yes.
like that.
So did Paul O'Connor.
Paul
okay.
O'Connor did the same for you?
Right. Floyd Raby was also there. We all kind of helped each other.
So basically you all pitched in and did some of this
Right.
job that maybe they
Absolutely.
wouldn't ordinarily do,
Right.
but because of the special circumstance,
Right.
you all pitched in and did what needed to be done at any
Right.
given moment.
Right.
All right, I understand. Is there anything else about the actions in the morgue to you? What is the strongest evidence, just based on what you went through, that just stands out now, almost 35 years later, that points to conspiracy?
Actually, there's two different things. Outside control from the gallery and Dr. Eversol's actions.
Well, let's talk about Dr. Eversol a little bit. What in his actions points to that? I know
He wouldn't actually specify.
For the benefit of the audience, who was Dr. Eversol and what was his duty?
Dr. Eversol, just at that time, during that period, was left in charge by Captain Brown. He was off on a conference somewhere, and Dr. Eversol was like myself. I'm the technician that was on call. He was the radiology resident on call. He had finished his residency. He was in the process of waiting to take his board certification. So he actually was not board certified at all. His expertise was radiation therapy. So he really had nothing to do with any forensic type information, bullets, fragments, bullet wounds, gunshots, or anything like that. He just took care of any basic fractures, any basic carcinomas. At that time, we had radiologists that took care of different situations, different facets of the radiology field. And that was their expertise, and they stayed within that region. So, the gentleman is dead, and I do not want to cast any aspersions on him per se, but I do not believe he was the best person for that position at that time. When he was told his duty was to find any bullets that went into the body and stayed there, he should have questioned that right away. He's a lieutenant commander. He's supposed to be there doing a particular job, gathering evidence. That's not gathering evidence. There was a couple of times I went to him and showed him, well, don't you think this is a fragment? What do you think about that? Mind your own business, do your own job.
Mm.
So basically, he fell in line with Boswell and Humes and Fink. Do what you're told to do.
Right.
Don't go any further.
He was a career officer that did what he was told to do. He had no thinking on his own.
Let me ask you this. You've all known each other. You all knew each other because you worked with each other. Did any of you, all of you young men at this point in time, did any of you get together after this autopsy was over with and go, Jesus, what's going on here? Did any of you get together and talk about your experiences?
Well, you got to remember what the night was kind of draining. I know I went back up to the call room and I literally crashed. And I didn't wake up until, I think it was 6 o'clock the next morning when Captain Braun and Dr. Ebersol came into the call room, sat there on the bed and was talking to me. And congratulated me on a job well done. But truthfully, we were told literally when we left that next day, we were summoned, each one of us, to the Commander-in-Chief of the National Naval Medical Center and told that we had to sign that gag order.
Now this was done separately? Each one of you separately went in and told this?
Right.
And what were your feelings when they said you're going to sign this gag order?
Well, I knew that it was an important event and it happened, and they didn't want this to get out. But when I walked in a room, I didn't realize the atmosphere until actually I was there. The intimidation, we were meant to be intimidated.
Mm.
You got the feeling that you were not so much in words, but through their actions, and the feeling you got that basically you were being threatened.
Absolutely. You open your mouth, you're gone. We'll forget you.
Court-martial, huh?
Court-martial and Portsmouth.
Wow.
It's the Navy's jail.
Wow.
How long was it before you told anyone that you were the person that took the x-rays as the president?
Like your wife, for example.
Well, the first time I actually said anything to anybody is when David Lifton came and proved to me that the gag order was rescinded.
But you made sure that gag order was rescinded before you
Absolutely. I saw the paper in front of me.
When Mr. Lifton came to you, did it frighten you? Was your wife frightened for you?
Well, she, all along, I was receiving phone calls from different people, and they were saying, well, the gag order's rescinded. Can you talk to me? And I said, no, I can't talk to you. I don't know it's rescinded. You're talking to me over the phone. I don't know you from Adam.
Now they rescinded it because of the House Select Committee on Assassinations in '77, correct?
Correct. And I voiced my opinion about it, and my wife would listen to me, and she said, what was that all about? Oh, that's nothing, don't worry about it. We left it. We were married for quite a few years before she actually found out about it. And that night after Lifton left, she said, well, you mean to tell me you kept that secret all that long? I said, yeah, I did.
Wow, what was that like? Was she in disbelief at first, or was she?
Well, she didn't realize I was there. Well, she knew I was at Bethesda, and she didn't put two and two together that I was involved in this until later, much later.
Did this picture worry you at all? The fact it's got out to life? Do you think anybody would recognize you at the time?
Take a point for the audience, exactly which one you want.
Here I am here.
In glasses.
Just to prove a point. I'm the technologist. He's the student. He's carrying my apron.
Mm.
He still has his on.
Right.
We still had our own little protocol, our kind of ranking within the enlisted personnel.
I see what you're saying. Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Someone took a lens and took this through a keyhole.
Right.
But you were aware of
Well,
this
you can
photo?
actually see it.
Right.
Hey.
You were aware of that photo at the time when it came out?
Well, not until much later.
Oh, okay. Okay.
I received the photo from a friend.
Oh, okay. That's still amazing they kept you like that, because it's just like, you know, Dennis David, Paul Connor, and that.
But if you look at pictures of me then and pictures of me now, you still can recognize it's me.
Mm-hmm.
You haven't changed all that much.
People wanted to find me, they could find me.
But it doesn't really bother you.
The thing is, I can't point fingers at hide people.
Right.
So, all I can say is, well, I can point fingers at the fact only that a conspiracy happened. But I can't say Lyndon Johnson was in it, or J. Edgar Hoover was in on it, or so-and-so was in on it. I can't do that because I don't know.
Right.
I don't know.
You only know what you know because you were there,
That's
involved in the events.
Right.
Is there anything else at this point that you'd like to state for the historical record?
The more you think about the situation, even now, 35 years afterward, a lot of the officials really don't want to hear. When I went to Washington, D.C. and gave my deposition, I was told I was brought there to set the record correctly. During that time, I was told by the chief investigator that my deposition was the most important of all. And that kind of struck me funny at the time because they had Humes, Boswell, Fink, Ebersol there, and to tell me mine was more important than theirs.
Mm.
That kind of said, well, wait a minute. Are you telling me you're going to believe me more over and above these gentlemen? They weren't very kindly to these other gentlemen. They felt that they were kind of aloof and standoffish. They didn't want to be honest and truthful with the evidence that they had. But they didn't consider it as evidence. It's historical artifacts. That's how it's listed.
Right.
It should be listed as historical evidence of an assassination.
Mm.
It makes you wonder, like, a great country like ours would do something like that. Destroy a person that just maybe could have put this country on its feet to where it would have been totally well and respected by everyone throughout the world. The age of Camelot. Why did they call it Camelot? Because they wanted to go back to the honest, decent ways of that chivalry time, where a woman was worth something, where a man's word was his bond. Today, you cannot take people by their word. You have to have everything written out, detailed, everything, plain and simple, then certified, documented, and then again you have to go through the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
There's no longer a handshake between people. Today, you go to shake somebody's hand, you bring it back and you count your fingers.
Well, here's my handshake, sir. It's been an honor.
Thank you very
Same with
much.
me.
It's been my honor,
Same
Dick.
here.
This has really been something after 35 years to come out like this. It's been a trying time. I've been stepped on, twisted, lied to, almost bankrupt. Maybe it's my time to shine.
Well, we think so too. We were here to put it on the record, and we thank you for giving us your time to put it on the record the way that it should be put on the record.
Well, thank you, and I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you. Sounds good. Okay. That's an excellent point. The wife felt so naturally. Stop like that was great.
I still can't get over her calling me about 3 times.
Ooh, watch out. Let's get that camera off. We'll be good. Okay.